19 and counting. It's time for my reread of The Running Man. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Dave Musson and this is the place where I talk to you about all things Stephen King. And in this video, I'm continuing my chronological reread of all of Stephen King's fiction works. And we've reached 1982 and another Richard Bachman book. Yep, it's The Running Man this time that we're covering. The fourth Richard Bachman book. You can see the others that I've already covered on this chronological reread on that playlist. And perhaps one of the most well-known Richard Bachman books, mainly because of the film with Arnold Schwarzenegger in from 1987, but also, as I sit here and record this in 2025, the fact that a new movie is coming out later this year, being adapted by Edgar Wright. So it's an interesting time to read The Running Man, even more so because it's set in 2025, a dystopian American version of that year. So lots to unpack here. And I'm going to give it the usual chronological reread treatment. And that means in this video, you're going to see a vlog of me rereading this book. And yes, it will be spoiler heavy. So if you haven't read The Running Man, maybe check out my 19 reasons to read it. Read it yourself and then come back and watch this. Anyway, I went off track there. We're going to get a vlog of me reading the book. And then there's a lengthy analysis section at the end where I will give you some overall thoughts on the book. I will see how The Running Man scores on my Stephen King bingo card, which is a list of 19 Stephen King tropes and cliches that I reckon are in most of his books. We're going to see how many of them we find in this book. I'm going to give you 3 things I liked, 3 things I disliked about this book. I'm going to pick out some of my favourite quotes. I'm going to pick out some of the things I noticed in this read for the first time. So 19s, character names, that kind of stuff. And then I will give it a score out of 5. And what are we giving it out of 5 this time? Well, I guess 5 loops of intestines sprawling out of a gunshot wound in your gut. Yeah, let's do that. But before all that, I'm going to talk a little bit about The Running Man and my relationship with The Running Man, and I'll show you my editions and let you know which one I'm going to read. But before all that, just give me a few seconds, because I got a couple of very quick plugs for you. So all the things I like to plug, the links are in the description. Namely, they are my collection of short stories from 2024, Once More Around the Sun. It won some awards. If you like King, you'll like it. My Stephen King trivia book, my collection of Stephen King themed band shirts, and the fact that you can become a member of this channel, you can become a constant viewer, get extra content, all of that kind of stuff. Links are all below. That's it. Let's get on with the show. So, The Running Man then. A little bit of background on this one. So this was the 4th book that Stephen King released under the pseudonym of Richard Bachman, and it was published in paperback on the 4th of May 1982. And it's another one similar to The Long Walk, another one where Bachman is giving us like a reality TV show. The Running Man is set in this dystopian vision of 2025 America, where basically everyone's poor and the whole world is controlled by the network, this TV network that puts on really sick game shows. And it's a way for people to earn money. Only catch is, most of the time they go on these game shows, they die. So there's one that's like set where people with pre-existing health conditions are made to exercise until they die, basically. Can't remember what that's called, but I think it's in the book somewhere. I'm sure we'll cover it when I get to my vlog. But The Running Man is the top tier, top ticket show. And the idea is that the contestants are on the run. And they get 12 hours head start to just get out there and escape. And then they can be hunted. And if they get caught, they get killed. And members of the public are encouraged to keep an eye out for these running men and tip off the network. And they get monetary rewards for successful tip-offs. And the contestants, well, they have to keep themselves alive. They get a certain amount of money for every hour that they're out alive. They get bonuses if they take out any of the hunters. And they have to mail a video of themselves 2 times a day. And the network assures those contestants that that video won't be used to trace them at all. But do we believe them, folks? Well, let's find out. And the story of The Running Man, we meet our protagonist, Ben Richards, whose little girl is very ill. and whose wife has been trying to get medicine for his girl by basically prostituting herself and earning money that way. He decides enough's enough, going to go to the network and sign up for a game show, and he gets picked for the Running Man. And he quickly becomes pretty good at it. And this book is his adventure on the game show. Will he make it? Will he get through? How much money will he win? How many people will he take out? All those kind of things to explore. It's quite an iconic Stephen King book, despite it being a Richard Bachman book. And it was made into a movie in 1987 starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is totally nothing like the book at all. And Ben Richards is nothing like an Arnold Schwarzenegger type character. But that's probably where a lot of the iconography comes from. And Arnold Schwarzenegger himself, when he was in his political career, he would have himself branded as the Running Man on his bus when he was running for office. So clearly means something to the big guy as well. And as I mentioned at the start, we've got a new movie coming out in 2025, an Edgar Wright version, which apparently is going to be closer to the book. So interested to check that out. Now, King quite famously has said that basically he wrote this book in a week. In On Writing, he said it was a week, and he was just churning out the words. In the Why I Was Bachman essay at the start of the Bachman books, he said he wrote it over 72 hours and basically didn't make any corrections before it was published. It was a bit of a fever dream of writing a book and getting it out there. And from my memory of reading it, yeah, that definitely comes across because it's quite a propulsive novel. So, yeah, it's kind of one that King even admits that he basically just churned out and tossed out. But I'm definitely interested to go back to it, which is probably a good time to talk about my relationship with The Running Man. So my memory of The Running Man is generally that it was quite a fun, pacey, high energy, tense thriller. Lots of action bits, lots of set pieces, and lots of reasons to just keep you moving. And because it's structured in a way, instead of chapters, the chapters are titled 100 and counting, 99 and counting. Like, you know you're working towards the end all the way through, so it kind of keeps you moving. I remember a couple of gross out moments involving intestines. I remember it being quite snarky, quite violent. But I generally remember having an okay time with it. I think I liked it a bit less second time round. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. One of the better Bachman books, if memory serves me correct. But of course, if you remember my reread of Roadwork, I've had my views completely transformed on that. So who knows what I'll think once I'm done with The Running Man. But generally, that's my relationship to it. Like, it's fine. It's kind of enjoyable while you're there. There's lots that are better. But I don't remember being particularly offended or particularly anything by it. It was just a sort of big, well, not even big, a quite slim chunk of sort of popcorn action. And obviously it feels quite prescient now because of the rise of reality TV and like companies like Amazon, who are effectively the network, aren't they? All of that kind of stuff. But I'm definitely interested to go back. I'm always interested to go back. But with the movie coming up, it's a great time to remind myself of what this one was like. And I've been pleasantly surprised by the other Batman books so far. Rage obviously ranked fairly low, but there were some good moments in that. The Long Walk is terrific, and Roadwork was absolutely excellent as well. So yeah, definitely excited to go back. And we're going to jump into that in my vlog very soon, but not before I show you my editions of The Running Man and let you know which one I'm going to be reading. Also, before I do that, if you like The Running Man, do let me know your thoughts. I'll be telling you to do that again later in the video, but hey, while I remember now, why don't you drop them in the comments? So I've got 3 books that have The Running Man in. I've got my original, well, not an original, but an earlier version of the Bachman books that has Rage in. All that looks like the Gladiators from UK 90s. There we go. There's one. I have my Rainbow Hodder edition of the Bachman books, which I used for Roadwork and The Long Walk. I'm not going to be using it for here, though, because I have a Rainbow standalone edition of The Running Man. And this is the one I'm going to be reading. As with all the Rainbow editions, the Bachman books are black because Bachman is King's dark half. And there we go. There's a man running on it, and there's no cringy tagline because it's got writing as Richard Bachman. The cringy tagline is on the back, and it says, "It's not just a game when you're running for your life." And that's not too bad, is it? Let's read the synopsis, shall we? I should have been doing this in all of these rereads. Every night, they tuned into the nation's favourite primetime TV game show. They all watched, from the sprawling, polluted slums to the security-obsessed enclaves of the rich. They all watched the ultimate live death game as the contestants tried to beat not the clock, but annihilation at the hands of the hunters. Survive 30 days and win the $1 billion jackpot. That was the promise. But the odds were brutal and the game rigged. Best score so far was 8 days. And now there was a new contestant, the latest running man, staking his life while a nation watched. There we go. That's the edition I'm going to be reading. I think we're ready to go. So enjoy my vlog of me rereading The Running Man, and I'll see the other side to go through all of the final thoughts and analysis. Let's go. So I'm up and running with The Running Man. Done the first 25 chapters, I guess, because it starts at 100, you know what I mean? Yeah, this book's not good, is it? I'd sort of relatively fond memories of it, but no, this is not good. Lots of misogynistic writing, lots of racist writing, lots of homophobic writing, unpleasant characters, unpleasant setting. Just, I don't know, it just feels like trying to be edgy, trying to be snarky, and just coming across as just horrible. There's really not that much to celebrate here. I mean, this weird world that we're in with all these weird reality TV shows. I know the point has been made lots that this is like Stephen King's dystopia from the 80s is now real in terms of how obsessed we are with reality TV and stuff. But like, we're not doing anything like treadmill to books, are we? Where people with heart conditions are made to go on a treadmill until they die. But yeah, it's just odd. I'm not having a good time with this. There was one bit that made me laugh out loud where the guys were going through their physical and we got the lines, their penises dangling between their legs like forgotten war clubs. I mean, sure, okay, funny, and obviously they all massively endowed by the sounds of it. And yeah, this one is set in 2025, so interesting to be reading this now. There are a couple of lines that I might save for my favourite lines section because I feel like I'm going to struggle to find something there. But really, this is not good. Like, I don't need to see that people think somebody looks like a faggoty looking fellow, or like somebody's described as being so black it looks like they're from a minstrel show. Like, fuck off. Don't need any of that language. Even in the 80s, like, no. The biggest thing I've taken for this so far is the name Freevee, which is a TV. Isn't that what Amazon's free channel is called? So that's where they got the names from. Like, that makes sense that this big evil network that is ruining the world and killing people decided to take its name from The Running Man. Ha ha ha. So, yeah, I guess I'll jog on through the next 25 chapters and see where we get to. So another 25 chapters of The Running Man done. Still not having a good time. The racism is getting even worse. And, you know, in this series, when particularly I've been doing 1-star reviews and people have sort of abandoned King books because of the racism in them, which I totally understand. But there has always been an element of like sort of having to take it in context at the time and what characters he was trying to develop and stuff. The writing style in this just feels aggressively racist for no reason whatsoever. Like, I don't know if he was trying to like do that as a Bachman thing, but it's kind of disturbing reading it. Like even just, it's just all of the black characters here are just portrayed really unfavorably, and there's attempts to write in a kind of black vernacular that's just bad. And then we get other characters that are just hideously racist as well. So, you know, we meet this 7-year-old kid, Stacy, black kid, and the way that the dialogue is written is terrible. It's also just odd as well, like 7 years old, and basically the first thing he says is like, "Don't kill me because I ain't even big enough to come yet." Would a 7-year-old really think that? But yeah, just just gross. And then we get the character Virginia, who is horribly racist, but also horrible to her own son, just saying like they'll catch you because you're too fat. And then she goes and calls the cops on Richards as well. Just a horrible character, and not in a satisfying way, not like a sort of Big Jim Ready type way, just an extra layer of like grease and grime on an already greasy and grimy story. Um, just vile. There's really not much to recommend here. The realization that Richards was being trapped when he was in the hotel in Boston, and he sort of started noticing all of the folks out on the street. That was pretty good. Um, but other than that, this is a rough read, like really a rough read. And so far, this is worse than Rage. Um, there's, there's just so little of value here, which is really odd. A couple of things I did notice. A reference to 19 children. We've got him crawling through the pipes, which is very Shawshank-esque. But one thing I did like here was so when Richard watches The Running Man and sees how they've manipulated footage of him and manipulated his videos and stuff, it's interesting. But it's also like it's King predicting deep fakes, um, which is fun. Like he's already predicted Freevee, which Amazon, gonna steal. Um, and those predicted deepfakes. And I cannot stop thinking about the network as just being Amazon now because of that Freevee thing, and because Amazon is burning the planet and exploiting people and just hooking them up to their own central nervous system and only really worrying about the rich people at the top. Yeah. So in terms of like King's like foresight into what was going to happen in the future, this book is obviously like I don't know, scarily prescient. Is that the right word? Scarily accurate for sure. But in terms of an enjoyable story, abso-fucking-lutely not. So we counted down another 25 chapters, and my hair is as big as my surprise that I'm really not enjoying this book at all. Like I've said before, it's a book I had fond memories of, and this is just ripping those to shreds. It's not a very nice book at all. Like Richards, he's hijacked Amelia's car with Amelia in, and he suddenly has a urge to rape her. Lovely. Um, yeah, there's really not much here to talk about. There's a few bits that I will pick up in the connections-y things I've noticed for the first time. The big one being, and I did know this before, the big one being that we go to Derry, and this is the first time in Stephen King's works that we go to Derry, and it's in a Bachman book, which is weird, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, yeah, Floyd's come in to try and distract me. You're an idiot. And where was I? Oh yeah, one thing I did notice. So when Richards is talking about how if the police killed him and Amelia, they would cover it up, and there's this big line about it being covered up like a terrible accident, and how authorities are looking into it and we're going to investigate it fully and stuff. And it's all just to save face. But what really struck me there was that that's basically what Israel does right now, isn't it? Ha! So very, very. I was going to say quite insightful of King, but they were probably doing that in the 80s as well. So screw those guys. Yeah, Richards again. While he's got his hostage, he just suddenly notices how perfect her breasts are. Again, like what? But yeah, this one wraps up this quarter of the book wraps up with somebody saying, "My friend, I think there's going to be a big boom," and all I can hope is that these final 25 sections whiz through, because I'm ready to get to that big boom and be done with this horrible book. So, an update for the final 25 bits of The Running Man. I'm done. It's over. Yeah, I mean, there are some things I could tell you that I noticed for the first time here, but I've got a section for that. I guess the explosion at the end is kind of satisfying, but also it's flying a plane into a building, which hasn't aged well. And obviously the iconic image of Richard's holding his intestines in and tripping over them and stuff. I mean, that's all gooey and gross and kind of fun. But yeah, I'm just glad it's over. So let's move to the proper closing section, shall we? Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Once again, a Bachman book on this reread has completely flipped in my head what my memories are. But for the Running Man, unlike with Roadwork, the Running Man is not in a good way. Anyway, we'll get into that, won't we? We've reached the analysis section. So here I'm going to go through the scores on the Stephen King bingo card. I'm going to do 3 pros and 3 cons. I'm going to pick out some of my favourite lines, which might be difficult. And I'm going to pick out some of the things I noticed for the first time and give you a score out of 5 loops of intestines sprawling out of a gunshot wound. But first, I guess some overall thoughts. And I would love to know your thoughts on The Running Man here, because I did not have a good time with this, as you've probably seen from the vlog. It's weird because I had fairly pleasant memories of reading this originally, but I just hated it this time. I really, really hated this reread, pretty much from the start all the way to the end. This has comfortably been my least enjoyable experience of the chronological reread so far. It's just awful. It's racist, it's sexist, it's overwhelmingly dull, and it just sort of stinks of a writer trying to be edgy and just failing miserably. If anything, it just comes across as unnecessarily nasty. I know from doing the 1-star review reads that I do on this channel to accompany my chronological rereads, like, you have to take into context the time in which it was written. And that's probably, for me in the past, when I do encounter like Stephen King's racist writing, for example, you can kind of not justify it, but you can understand where it's coming from when you put it in the context of the times and the characters and all of that kind of stuff. Not here though. This just feels overwhelmingly racist. And as I said, sexist and fatphobic and loads of other things. Just gross and nasty. For the sake of it, it just makes this Richard Bachman character feel like a really hideous human being. And it's just difficult to enjoy, even trying to put myself in the context of when this was written and not purely reading it through 2025 eyes. It's just not a pleasant book to have your nose in. Full stop. Like, there were a couple of lines in this that I didn't dislike, but largely it was a bad time. I guess the only thing that did sort of make my brain fizz and pop a little bit was the whole link to Amazon that I've talked about in the vlog. I think I mentioned it in the intro. Particularly the freebie thing. I mean, that's quite on the nose from Amazon to call their service that, and it does feel like Amazon is this big network-like company that has us all hooked and is drip feeding us stuff and trying to distract us while lots of other bad things are going on. But God, honestly, the rest of this book, I wanted to get out of it as quickly as possible. You know, aside from just how vile everyone and everything about this book is, it's just fucking boring. Like, I remember this book being this thrill-a-minute page-turner driven by these short chapters that were counting down, and I remember there being loads of set pieces, and loads of action and loads of tension. And that's really not the case. We get the admittedly cool scene in the YMCA in Boston where Richards escapes. And when he hooks up with Elton, that looks like it's going to be good, but then his vile, horrible, fatphobic mom calls the cops, and that all ends really quickly. Then he hijacks Amelia's car, but that's just feels like there's no real stakes there at all. And then it's straight onto the plane and up to the climax. And yeah, the plane bit is kind of good, and the stuff with the intestines is fun. But ultimately, that's basically 2 key moments, the YMCA and the plane stuff. Everything else is just so quite minor, really. I don't know. It's just boring, just really boring. And there's no way this story should be boring. I just don't get it. Like, I did burn through the final chapters, but that's only because I wanted my reading of this book to be done with. Frankly, this is everything that's bad about Stephen King. And even allowing for the context of when it was written and all of that kind of stuff, it's still a hideous read. And yeah, I really did not enjoy this, and I don't see myself ever wanting to reread this again. And it's Not exactly got me pumped for the movie either. But hey, I have faith that Edgar Wright would do a better thing than what this novel has ended up being. So, with that in mind, let's jump into all of my sections, shall we? So let's start with the Stephen King bingo card. And out of the 19 possible things, I found 5 in here. We obviously get a visit to Maine. He goes to Derry of all places. Bold, considering that was still a Bachman book at this point. We get a full dark. We get mentions of full dark. We get some 19s. We get some laughing until whatever happens. And we get lots of things that count in the nubbins category because, my God, Ben Richards cannot see a female character in this book without commenting about their breasts. So, yeah, 5 out of 19. Let's see where that puts it overall. Probably low down, which makes sense because it's a Bachman book. So more than Roadwork, but less than Firestarter, less than Rage as well. So it's second bottom when it comes on the Kingo card. There you go. Unless I missed anything, do let me know because, as I say, I wasn't enjoying this read, so I may well have skipped over something. But I don't think I did. Okay, let's go into things I liked and things I disliked. And let's start with 3 pros, 3 things I liked. And I'm going to take the unusual step here of basically only giving you 1. And that was the escape from the YMCA in Boston. The rest of the movie? What am I even talking about? The rest of the book, there genuinely weren't other things there I liked. Like, at a push, the stuff on the plane? Maybe. But, honestly, nah, not even the ending. Like, the ending I only liked because it was the end and I was done. So, yeah, shortest section of things I liked ever. Deal with it. Okay, boy, things I didn't like. I mean, I could just say the whole book, but if I'm picking out 3, the sexism, because it's just gross. I didn't like the first 25 chapters of the book. I thought the book got going into the game show a lot sooner than it did, but honestly, I didn't need to see in such minute detail Richard's going through all the tests, all the physicals, chilling in his hotel room before the game starts. Just get on with it. But the third thing I disliked was just the race. Oh my God, this is one of the most hideously racist books I've read. I just don't get it at all. Like, just horrible. Just horrible. Yeah, I don't want any part of it. So, done. Okay, let's go through some things that I noticed for the first time here. So this is where I pick out 19s, things that feel like links to other King books, events, character names, all of those kind of things. There's not much here. But there's not much to talk about generally in this book because I don't like it. Anyway, stuff that I did notice. We get Richard's crawling through some pipes under the YMCA, which made me think of Shawshank Redemption, of course. There's a reference to 19 children being killed. There's your 19. Of course, they go to Derry, and this is the first mention of Derry in anything published by Stephen King, save for that one tiny chapter of It that was published in a chapbook that was at a fantasy convention in 1981. But yeah, Derry. We get Derry. It makes its debut in The Running Man. We get Richard's references somebody who might get the Zapruder Award, which I assume is like for footage of the Running Man contestant being killed. But of course, Zapruder, that's the guy who had the footage of JFK being shot, JFK 11/22. JFK often pops up in Stephen King's works. Again, we get mentions of Derry. We get a reference, a character saying when Richards has got Amelia's handbag and pretending it to be plastic explosives, and she's like, "What are you going to do? Shoot them with my lipstick?" Which made me think of the Tommyknockers miniseries, where the post office worker has adapted that mini-stick into a gun. We get Richards saying that he wants the plane to be ready to fly with a skeleton crew, which would be the name of the next collection to come out. We get reference to a boogeyman. Of course, we get Richards holding his own intestines, and that's a scene like direct from Cujo with George Bannerman that had been written around the same time. And then the last one, we get the fact that the network building is basically described as a tower, quite a dark tower. Do you see? Yeah, there we go. Those are things I noticed. Did you spot anything else? Let me know in the comments. Okay, I'm going to try and pick out my favourite line in this book. And it's not difficult because there's only really one thing I've mentioned. There was one thing I noted about things ending in fall. I thought that was quite a nice line. But so much of this I hated. The one bit I do want to read for this section is this is good. This is the paragraph with -5 and counting. Richard is trying to take control of the plane. He's trying to get his guts back in. And this paragraph I just enjoyed. He paused at the entrance to the galley and tried to gather up his intestines. He knew they didn't like it on the outside, not a bit. They were getting all dirty. He wanted to weep for his poor, fragile intestines, who had asked for none of this. Now that is good. More of that, I would have had a good time. But instead we get loads of racism and we get an 8-year-old kid complaining that he's not big enough to come yet. Like, fucking no. Okay then, time to give this a score out of 5 loops of intestines. I'm giving it 1.25. Yeah, it's bottom of my list. I've ranked it a whole half a loop of intestine lower than Rage. Honestly, I wasn't expecting to hate this book this much, but I can't lie to you. Just had the worst time reading it. I'm so glad to be done. And I don't even feel like sticking around doing much banter here at the end of the video. Like, I'm glad to be done with this thing. And now I am done. Join me again for the journey over to Goodreads to read some other 1-star reviews of The Running Man, because my one is a 1-star review. So it'll be interesting to see what other people picked up. I'm guessing the racism. That's probably going to come up quite a lot, but we'll find out in our next video together. So look forward to that. Let me know what you think of The Running Man. You might like it more than me. I'd be interested if you do have fond memories, but you perhaps haven't read it for a while. Go back and read it and see what you think. Yeah, I didn't have fun, but I always have fun with you guys. It's great to share this experience with you. Thank you so much for watching. And hey, we've got another one done on the chronological reread. So join me next time for those 1-star reviews. And then when we're back here in the chronological reread, we're onto the Gunslinger, which means it's another double bubble because I'm going to be reading the original and the revised version side by side like I did with The Stand. So hopefully I'll have a more fun experience than I did with The Stand, and hopefully, well, surely I'll have a better experience than I did with The Running Man, right? But anyway, thank you so much. You guys are best. The Running Man isn't, but hey, it's done. So let's get out of here. -0 and counting.